GamingBolt presents 10 things you need to know about Cyberpunk 2077. If you thought The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt was ambitious, take a gander at CD Projekt RED's other big title, Cyberpunk 2077. Though little is known about the game, the development team is currently working hard on this new IP. Here are 10 things you need to know about CD Projekt's next big game. Cyberpunk 2077 may feature NPCs speaking different languages. Back in 2013, the development team was toying with the idea of having non-playable characters who speak a variety of languages that the player would otherwise not understand. CD Projekt RED's Sebastian Steppi espouses on this concept. Decisions are not yet made, but we are thinking about some kind of system which could tell more about the game world. The idea is to record everything in its original language. If there are, for example, Mexicans in the game, they will speak with slang, all performed by Mexican actors. Then a player could try a translating implant, and according to its level, he will get better or worse translation, the developer stated in an interview with Dubscore. Cyberpunk 2077 could feature driving and flying vehicles. Back in August 2016, CD Projekt RED posted a job listing for a vehicle gameplay programmer to create the whole architecture of vehicle-related code and the physics of driving/flying in those vehicles. This leads us to believe that Cyberpunk 2077 will include vehicles. A vehicle gameplay designer is also sought after to create compelling vehicle-based gameplay, aspects of which include controls, combat, and relevant vehicle-based AI systems. There are other such listings, including a concept artist to create art for weapons, machines, and vehicles. Cyberpunk 2077 has more developers working on it than The Witcher 3 did at its peak. Although CD Projekt RED has so far been reluctant to talk a whole lot about the game, in an investor relation Q&A session in September 2016, IR specialist Katarzyna Zulk mentioned that Cyberpunk 2077 has currently more developers at work than The Witcher 3 during its most intensive month of development. This seems to corroborate CD Projekt RED's previous assertions that this will be their most ambitious game yet. If that means that we can expect the kind of incredible quality from Cyberpunk that we got with The Witcher 3, which is legitimately a hallmark of the genre, then I say we give CD Projekt RED all the time they want. Cyberpunk 2077 to feature seamless multiplayer, huge living city. CD Projekt RED revealed some rather interesting information about Cyberpunk 2077 in a list of projects submitted to the Game In program in Poland, which offers a grant for development. The developer noted exactly what it would include in its upcoming action title. This includes city creation, which the description of it being a complex technology for creating a huge living city playable in real time, which the technology is based on rules, AI, and automation, as well as supports innovative processes and tools for making top-notch open-world games. Then there's seamless multiplayer, described as a complex technology for making unique multiplayer gameplay mechanics, including the ability to search out for opponents, manage game session, replicate objects, as well as support for different game modes, along with a unique set of dedicated tools. This sounds similar to something like Watch Dogs 2 or Forza Horizon 3, where players can join each other's sessions seamlessly. Cyberpunk 2077 is an all-out RPG, definitely not a multiplayer shooter. Speaking to IGN in January 2014, CD Projekt RED co-founder Marcin Iwinski put these worries to rest. People have been asking me if Cyberpunk 2077 will have multiplayer or if it will be a straight-up shooter, and I tell them to relax because it will be a true RPG game. We are known for storytelling and big game worlds, and so we're taking all that we've learned from previous 3 Witcher games as well as the open world aspect and applying it to Cyberpunk 2077. So yes, it is an all-out RPG game. But we're looking at having a lot of new gameplay elements that I cannot talk about yet. One thing I can say for sure is that it is definitely not a multiplayer shooter. Cyberpunk 2077 soundtrack will be composed by Witcher 3 composer. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt was that rare game that had the ability to completely immerse players in its vast open world. A lot of that had to do with just how gorgeous the game looked. Indeed, at launch, The Witcher 3 may have been the greatest looking game ever made. But not enough credit is given to the game's musical score and soundtrack, which knew to stay out of the way and enhance immersion with some excellent ambient tunes. The good news is, we'll probably see something of that sort again in the upcoming Cyberpunk 2077. CD Projekt RED are currently working away on their mysterious new project, and while we don't know a lot about that, we do know that Marcin Przybylowicz, the director of The Witcher 3 soundtrack, will be composing the music for Cyberpunk 2. My superiors already forced me to do it because I spend most of my time with Geralt. However, some first attempts with Cyberpunk were already made, said Przybylowicz to Game Pressure. Cyberpunk 2077 may be releasing by June 2019. CD Projekt RED has applied for a government grant to secure some funding for itself as it goes on making the kind of ambitious and breathtaking games as The Witcher 3. But the true point of interest for many fans here will be this little snippet. In the applications for these grants for Cyberpunk, the timeline mentioned is from January 2016 to June 29, 2019. implying that all of the game's development milestones must be hit in this period. What does this mean then? It means that, in turn, Cyberpunk 2077 must meet its development milestones and deadlines within this period. This seems to imply that CD Projekt RED is looking at a 2019 release date for the game at the latest. Depending on how fast, or not, development of the game ends up being, it could release before then, or right at the edge of this time frame. Cyberpunk 2077 is set in the future, with corporations and morally gray world. Speaking in an interview with the business outlet Money in Poland, CD Projekt RED CEO Adam Kaczynski discussed Cyberpunk, stating that an internal release date has already been planned and the game will take place in a morally gray world. He stated, "We've been working on Cyberpunk 2077 for a long time. It's a completely different reality set in the future with corporations and morally gray world. Just to be clear, we already have the release date for Cyberpunk 2077 planned, but we won't announce it until we are ready to start the marketing campaign." CD Projekt RED wants more punk in the game. Speaking to IGN back in 2013, CD Projekt RED game director Matthias Koenig and creative director Sebastian Stepien talked about their upcoming Cyberpunk 2077 and retaining the mood of the original universe while also making it work within the framework of a modern RPG. Matthias stated that there are a lot of cyber games around, but there's not a lot of punk in those games. We want to put more punk into ours. We do not want to make a dark and hopeless world. We're not doing Blade Runner. It will be full of rock and roll. Stepien calls it more like a Tarantino approach. Speaking about modernizing the game's technology, Matthias said that the original Cyberpunk 2020 is a kind of retro game. You cannot believe in this world today because a lot of things in our world are already higher tech, so we needed to change this to make it more real for modern people. But also it's important to still keep the mood and the original feel of Cyberpunk. We don't want to just create a science fiction game. It's easy to do that. We still want to balance it with those main features and the mood from the Cyberpunk original. This is a huge task, I think. Cyberpunk 2077 devs will use updated tools for development. Jose Teixeira, a visual effects artist for CD Projekt RED, spoke to iDigital Times in 2016 about what the studio was doing to start work on this new futuristic game. Teixeira says a brand new visual effects editor is one of the toys he's been given. He added he's excited about Cyberpunk 2077, which the company has already said will be great. One of the things the studio did during the very long development process of The Witcher 3 was to take notes on what worked and what needed to be improved. The most important thing that's happening at the moment is that the programmers are taking the feedback we gave them from working on The Witcher. As cliche as it sounds, it was a big learning experience, Teixeira said. The programmers are updating our software quite drastically. That'll be it for this video. If you like what we're doing, please go ahead and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.